What's up, nerds and geeks? My name is OMG, WTF, LOL, FTWBRB. Welcome back to more Total Extreme Wrestling 2016. We are playing as the WWF in the year 2001. More importantly, we are booking the invasion angle. And tonight we'll be booking the first Nitro after Survivor Series. The fallout from Survivor Series, and Nitro may be a little bit more interesting than Raw because, well, I mean, not that Raw wasn't interesting, but Nitro didn't know if it was going to be around after Survivor Series, so that's why I say it may be a little more interesting. We'll be the judge of that when we see it. Tonight is the debut of Goldberg, so that's something to look forward to, so let's just stop wasting time and jump right into this, shall we? As we have our 3 pre-show matches of the night. First pre-show gets us a E+ 35 rating here, and an abysmal pre-show match. Spike Dudley going over local talent Jason Blade in 15 minutes, or not 15 minutes, 5 minutes and 17 seconds with a double foot stomp. Getting in with the mushroom stomp there. We are in Georgia. It's a specific reason why. I mean, Atlanta, more specific as well. It's where WCW was pretty much birthed. It's their home. That's why we chose it. So, if anyone recognizes Jason Blade, apparently he's from Georgia. If you don't, I don't blame you. I don't know him either. He just had good skills. Either way, though, Spike Dudley with a 48, Jason with a 32. And when I say good skills, I mean like his, he's not popular, but he had decent skills compared to everybody else that, wasn't some, already established person like Hacksaw Jim Duggan or some shit. Either way, we then move on to another pre-show match here, our second of 3, which gets us a 42D rating. In an abysmal pre-show match, Molly Holly going over a developmental talent, Nikita, who is actually the current OVW Women's Champion as well, in 5 minutes, 50 seconds with the Molly go round. Molly with a 49, Nikita with an 18. No worker improvements here as we move on to the main event of the pre-show, Nerds and Geeks, which gets a solid C rating here with a 63 rating. In a pre-show match that had decent wrestling, but not much weighing heat. Power Plant defeating Hitchup in 9 minutes, 46 seconds when Mark Jindrak defeats Funaki with the Power Plant bomb, and that makes their first defense of the WCW World Tag Team titles. Maybe not the first official defense. I mean, the first official defense will probably be done at Armageddon, or maybe sometime beforehand. But this is actually technically, I guess, the first defense. Either way, Funaki still the weak link here. But that's not bad. I mean, if you look at his in-ring performance, a 51 compared to everybody else, it's really not bad. Jindrak with a 65, the best in the match. No, excuse me. Stasiak with a 65, the best in the match. Tying it with Al Snow. It's not often you see Sean Stasiak put on a better performance than Mark Jindrak. That's interesting. I didn't expect to see that. Mark Jindrak just 1 point behind Snow and Stasiak with a 64, and Funaki with the 51. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off this show here, Nerds and Geeks, with a 100 A-star rating here. Once, of course, the whole Survivor Series video recap package, whatever the hell you want to call it, is finished playing. Nitro, emphasis on Nitro, of course, because, like I said, this could have been the end, pretty much. This could have just been SmackDown all over again, if WWF would have won on Sunday. Nitro opens up with the crowd. They're going wild because the WCW's People's Champion music hits, and out comes Diamond Dallas Page, the man who challenged The Rock but lost the WWF Championship opportunity, but, in the long run, may have gained the respect of not only the WCW fans, but the WWF fans as well. Page begins to make his way down to the ring, and then once in the ring, he takes the mic and he says, "Wow, seriously, you guys, thank you. I don't know if I deserved that big of a reaction, but what the hell? Let me hear it, you guys!" And then the crowd just starts going wild for him once again, and then Page goes, all right, so obviously, as I'm sure many of you have noticed by the absence of gold around my waist, I didn't walk out of Survivor Series the WWF champion. But even worse is that the WWF walked out with our championship. More importantly, Kurt Angle walked out with our championship. You see, Booker T failed us. And well, I only see one obvious option to step up and take out the Olympic gold medalist and bring back WCW's gold, and that man is... But before he can go on and go to say what I believe we all know what he's going to say, DDP, that's when the Giant's music interrupts him, and I mean, his music's not, well, it's the big show, so, I mean, doesn't fit as well as it did in my head when I wrote this, because I was thinking, that man is, well, it's the big show. Or maybe it goes, well, it's the Giant. Either way, Giant's music hits, and he interrupts Paige. Out comes the world's largest athlete. He's got a mic in his hand and something on his mind, and he says, Paige, shut up. You want to talk about failures? Booker T wasn't the only one who failed us. As you mentioned before, you don't have the WWF Championship, which means you lost. On the other hand, though, I led Team WCW to victory in War Games on Sunday. And then Paige goes, no you didn't. I'm pretty sure Chris Benoit did. Speaking of Benoit, I'm surprised he's actually not out here demanding his title shot, with his ego and all. And then Giant goes on to say, Benoit has his shot at the Rumble, and I did lead Team WCW to victory last night. I started the match, and I took everyone out but Rob Van Dam and Triple H, leaving Benoit and Flair to pick up the pieces. Paige then responds, oh, you sure as hell did take everyone out when your fat ass fell on top of everyone and took the ring with you. And then Giant, sick of hearing Paige run his mouth, grabs DDP by the throat, and he says, I'd bite my tongue if I were you. And that's finally when Booker T's music hits, Can You Feel It, Sucker? And out comes the now former WCW World Heavyweight Champion, alongside the owner of WCW, Shane McMahon. And Booker goes, would you two shut the hell up? I don't know why you two are even arguing out here, acting like I don't still got my rematch clause for my title. So you two suckers can bicker back and forth all you want, but the line starts behind me. Tell 'em, Shane. And then Shane goes, well, Book, they kind of have a point. And then Book goes, huh? Shane, tell me you didn't just say that. And then Shane responds, I'm sorry, Book, but last night, or not last night, what the hell was I writing? This past Sunday, Giant looked damn near unstoppable, and it took 4 giant men, The Undertaker, Kane, Scott, and Rick Steiner, to take him down. Plus, even though Paige did lose at Survivor Series, it's hard to argue these fans' reactions for him. So I'll tell you what, Book, and I'm sure all 3 of you see where this is going. Tonight in the main event, it'll be Booker T versus the Giant versus Diamond Dallas Page, and the winner will face Kurt Angle for the WCW World Championship at Armageddon. And, of course, that leads like DDP smiling, big Giant sitting there kind of like nodding his head because he's a Giant. He thinks he's got this. And Booker's just kind of pissed because he pretty much assumed he's just guaranteed his rematch. So either way, that sets up our main event of the night, which will be a 3-way match similar to Monday Night Raw, which I just kind of realized now, but that's fine. Where we have 3 top WCW talents, Giant, DDP, and Booker T battling over the right to face Kurt Angle at Armageddon. But before we can get on with the show, we did have a couple of locker room incidents. Scott Steiner antagonizing the one Billy Gunn, so much so that a fight broke out between them. Billy Gunn's apparently got some balls, not just an ass. And they actually had to be pulled apart. We gave Scott Steiner a stern warning, but it only had his personality get a little worse. Jonathan Coachman, on the other hand, coming to the save for us as he apparently entertains the locker room by organizing a poker tournament, so you can't complain there. Triple H, of course, was also brought to Wrestler's Court today. That'll be interesting. Triple H was accused of complaining and moaning all the time. Wonder why. And just bringing everyone's mood down, Judge Rock eventually found him guilty and sentenced him to buy everyone drinks later on tonight, improving Triple H's behavior. I highly doubt that would ever happen, but apparently it did. And then, of course, Vince McMahon passing on psychology to Shane McMahon and passing on microphone skills to Stephanie McMahon. So, you have that going for you. Alrighty then. So, of course, Shane McMahon usually likes to be unscripted in these segments, so I had to have everyone unscripted, which apparently Giant improvised well. and Shane McMahon did a masterful job. Booker T, on the other hand, he struggled when going off the script, and DDP was just kind of there. He knew what he was doing. Heenan was still pretty weak, which will get rid of him eventually, but not anytime soon. And it gains heat to the Kurt Angle storyline, with one of these three plus another storyline, probably going to be consisting of 2 of these 3. Maybe 4. Who knows? When I say 4, I mean 3 out of the 4, but whatever. We then move on to the next segment. Of course, the next segments, and I say pluralize there because I mean it, the next segments are just hyping up the fact that we will indeed see later on tonight Booker T battling the Giant and DDP to determine the #1 contender for the WCW World Championship, which gets us a 79B rating. We then, speaking of the WCW World Championship, we have Kurt Angle's championship celebration later on tonight, which gets a 76B-. And not to mention that tonight, Goldberg makes his debut, which gets a 77 solid B rating. We then go into a backstage angle before a commercial break, which gets a 75B-. We're backstage with Stacy Keibler and Chuck Palumbo. Stacy seems a little upset, and we interrupt to hear Chuck Palumbo trying to explain himself. And Chuck says, "Come on, Stacy, don't be like that." And then Stacy says, "No, Chuck, don't you see what's happening? I picked you up as a client because I thought you were better than your partner. But now I'm starting to see that maybe the Natural Born Thrillers just sucked in general. Every time it matters, Chuck, you choke. You choked on Sunday, and you choked on Monday. I mean, seriously, you lost to Rob Van Dam. And even worse, now these people are starting to chant, 'Chuck sucks' at you." And then Chuck replies, "Look, Stacy, I know I've been letting you down lately, but I promise you that things are going to turn around. Come down to the ring with me, because I'm going to go out there and call out that punk RVD and show everyone that his win on Raw was just a fluke." And that ends this segment as we move on to commercial and then lead him back from our commercial to yet another segment, still proceeding with a 75B- here. Not too bad. Bill McGillicuddy was not supposed to be here, but that's my bad. Either way, we're back from our commercial break. Chuck Palumbo, Stacy Keibler already in the ring. Chuck Palumbo is in the ring, we already know he's in the ring. He takes the mic, and the crowd's, of course, chanting, Chuck sucks, right at him. And Chuck says, Hey, Rob Van Dam, you see what you started? Ever since you said I suck on Monday Night Raw, everywhere I go, people scream, Chuck sucks at me. And now it's gotten to the point where even Stacy's starting to believe it. And all this because of some fluke victory on Monday Night Raw. I was blinded by my rage, and it cost me a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. But I won't let it cost me my career, especially when it's some extremely crappy wrestler as the cause. That I won't let slide. So, Rob Van Dam, get your ass down here so I can show everyone that Chuck does not suck. But instead of getting Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer's music plays, and out comes the heart and soul of ECW instead. And Tommy comes out saying, Sorry, Chuck. I know I'm not the guy you were looking for, but I'm the guy you're going to get. You see, while you may have issues with a close friend of mine, you now have issues with me. And now we pull back up. I know, look at this. Tommy Dreamer getting some notepad time here. And Tommy continues to say, because you see, when you bring up ECW and you talk about how it was and how you say extremely crappy, very original, by the way. But you see, when you say crap like that, Chuck, well, you piss me off. And similar to you, I've got a lot of pent-up frustration that I've been begging to find a release for. Because you see, after going through hell with Raven and watching my own girlfriend get attacked by some deranged woman, the last thing I want to hear is someone talk crap about the only family that I've ever had. So maybe it's not ECW that's crappy wrestling, and maybe, just maybe, Chuck truly does suck. And that pisses Chuck Palumbo off as he lands a right hand right on Tommy Dreamer, starting this impromptu matchup here, and leading to, like I said, an impromptu match between Chuck Palumbo and Tommy Dreamer here. So Chuck may have wanted Rob Van Dam, but he got Tommy instead. Beulah did help Tommy here, but again, she wasn't really supposed to be here. It did get the crowd hotter, which, that's surprising. Stacy was the real star in this segment, which doesn't really surprise me. She was rated on sex appeal. I mean, look at that shirt she's wearing. Tommy performed poorly, but he'll get up there. As we move into the matchup which gets a solid C rating here with a 63 rating here. And about that had decent wrestling, but not much weighing heat. Chuck Palumbo going over Tommy Dreamer. I don't know why it insists on doing by submission, but I'd imagine it. In fact, this really shouldn't have been. This is supposed to be a storytelling thing, but I guess whatever. Let them do what they... What? No, it really shouldn't have. It says right here No, that's bullshit, Road Agent Notes. You know for a fact I put sports entertainment finish in here, but whatever. I'm gonna let it slide, okay? Either way, the match was supposed to just be kind of thrown out, but the game's just... If anything, Tommy Dreamer should have won. But whatever. It ends by being thrown out when Vampiro comes in. I'm sure we all know who Vampiro is, but Vampiro, who, of course, no one knows who is at this moment. We know who it is because it says Vampiro, but I'd imagine the crowd being like, what the fuck? And even the announcers being like, what? Who is that? But Vampiro comes in and he starts attacking Tommy Dreamer, which leads to the match just kind of getting thrown out. And Chuck kind of being like, oh, whatever, and just, leaving because he didn't want anything to do with this. Vampiro's kind of scary looking. And Vampiro making his debut here, getting a great rating on his vampiric gimmick. Chuck Palumbo with a 71 in-ring performance, and Tommy Dreamer with a 52 in-ring performance. Not too bad for Tommy. As we then move on to the next segment, which does a 71 B- rating here. Hell yeah. I was kind of worried about it, but B-, I'll take that. Match is over, but the mysterious individual who has been identified as Vampiro by the announce team, of course, this is WCW, and I'd imagine at least Mike Tenay being like, wait a minute, that's Vampiro! Vampiro continuing to beat down on Tommy Dreamer, striking him with what looks like to be a spike in his hand, and eventually drawing blood from the heart and soul of ECW, beating down on him, and then finally we hear someone just scream, stop! And then all of a sudden, Vampiro stops, and out comes Raven and Daphne. Daphne, of course, made her debut at Survivor Series by attacking Beulah McGillicuddy by aiding Raven as well. Raven, of course, was the one who said stop. He takes the mic and he says, Vampiro, that's quite enough. You've done an exceptional job. Oh, Tommy boy, this has not been a kind couple of days for you, has it? And I promise you, it's only going to get worse. You see, you met Daphne this past Sunday when she bloodied your precious girlfriend. And I can see that you've met Vampiro. Allow me to introduce you to you. Let me try that over. Allow me to introduce you to you and everyone else to WCW's newest extermination group, The Flock. And things are only going to get even more darker. Quote Raven, nevermore. And then the lights go on and off, and they're gone. So Vampiro makes his debut, and The Flock is back. This time, a new version, I guess, a new iteration of The Flock is back because we don't have no Perry Saturn or Billy Kidman or Canyon or Mortis, I guess is what you can call them. And there are some other Flock members I can't remember off the top of my head. But this time around, so far, we have Daphne and Vampiro, and I'm sure knowing Raven, we'll see some more members of The Flock come back. But bigger than that, not only is Vampiro here, not only is Daphne here, but we know Daphne and Vampiro as WCW talents. Raven did have a stint in WCW, but he's mostly been known as an ECW, WWF guy. But he just dropped right there that this is WCW's extermination group. So Raven has joined WCW, and we don't know why. Daphne's getting better at a gimmick, but apparently she did not come out looking good, which is a shame. She wasn't rated on sex appeal or anything, just overness, so maybe I should have not have rated her, to be honest. But it did gain heat for the Raven-Tommy Dreamer feud, and Vampiro is also learning to show more charisma. So there you have it, folks. Vampiro's here. Then we just have a freestyle segment afterwards, just showing Matt Hardy making his way towards the ring, along with Lita, getting a 70C+. Not too bad at all there for just a quick little segment. Oh, man, Steve, you're an idiot. All right, well, that's not too bad. I was about to say, how the hell did Matt Hardy get a 99? So what was supposed to happen here was I think I wanted to have Matt Hardy's match before this, but I don't know what I was trying to do. I put him in between. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. 99 A-star rating here. The ring is all set up for Kurt Angle's championship celebration. The ropes are red, white, and blue. There's a podium in the ring, and all around the ring are Kurt's many accomplishments. Of course, you see his Olympic gold medals and his various championship wins like the European Championship, Intercontinental Championship, WWF Championship, King of the Ring, so on and so forth. Just all his, accomplishments. His music hits, and out comes the new WCW World Heavyweight Champion, Kurt Angle. Once in the ring, the champ stands at the podium and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to say that I am your new WCW World Champion. And unlike most of my roster mates over on the WWF, who would probably throw this championship in the trash, I plan to carry it with respect and honor. You see, I'm still under the belief that the WWF needs WCW just as much as WCW needs the WWF to succeed. Whatever. Competition brings out the best in everyone. And when there is no competition, you get lazy and complacent. Which is why I plan to use my reign as WCW champion to hopefully build a bridge between the two companies. Which is why I've asked the owner of WCW, Shane McMahon, to come out. So, come on out, Shane. Shane McMahon's music hits, and out comes the WCW owner, who joins Kurt Angle in the ring. And Kurt says, "Thank you for joining me, Shane. I'm sure you heard what I had to say, so I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. Do you think that WCW and WWF could ever put their differences aside and end this war?" Shane's response, well, maybe if somebody else bought WCW from me, but that's not going to happen. You see, Kurt, while your cause is noble, I have my own reasons for keeping this war going. And trust me, it's not out of competition. It's to prove a point to my father, to show him that he's not untouchable, and more importantly, to humble him by putting him out of business. This war doesn't end until one of us is gone. And then Kurt says, "Well, it's a shame, Shane. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope none of that ends up happening." And then Shane says, "Oh, it's gonna. Just like your reign as WCW champion ends this month." And then Kurt responds, "Well, that's not gonna happen either, Shane. Because it doesn't matter if it's Booker T, DDP, The Giant, Goldberg, or even you. WCW is never getting this title back." And then Shane just stands up and says, "Oh, we'll see about that, Kurt. But until then, thanks for having me. And enjoy your championship reign while it lasts." And that ends the Kurt's championship celebration as Kurt attempts to build, start somewhat of a bridge, a trust between WWF and WCW, but Shane is having none of it. Apparently, he made it clear right there. He's got his own reasons for this war, and he wants to see it to the end. So Shane McMahon likes to go off script, as we saw earlier. Still superb. Unfortunately, Kurt Angle was poor trying to improvise, which would explain why this got a 99 and not a 100. But still, a 99? Not too bad. Then again, Bobby Heenan might have affected it too, but we've seen it get 100 ratings with Bobby Heenan still. As we move on to what was supposed to be in between these, but like I said, doesn't matter too much as we get a 69, not 66, 69 C+ rating here. We're back from our commercial break. The Hardy Boys music hits, and out comes Matt Hardy, who heads straight for the ring. So maybe after the Kurt Angle thing, we see Matt making his way to the ring. Matt, once in the ring, takes the mic and he says, "I'm out here for one reason and one reason only. Lance Storm, I want another shot. I know you beat me this past Sunday, and I've got no excuse for that, and I'm not going to try to make one. But I know I can beat you, and I'm sick, and I'm tired of letting my family and my company and let everyone down. I let everyone down when you beat me for the European Championship, and I allowed you to call it the Canadian Championship. But now you drag my family's name through the mud, mock my company and my country, and try to end both me and my brother's careers. And that is not something that I will stand for. So Lance Storm, get your ass down here and show me, yourself, and all these people that Canada wasn't just a good luck charm." Which then leads to Lance Storm's music hits, and out comes the Canadian champion, he's a bit amused here, and he's just like, "Matt, do you know how desperate you sound right now? But you know what, Matt? I actually enjoy beating you up, so I'm going to give you your match. I'm going to give you your second shot. Because I just want to go back down there and hear you scream, 'I quit,' one more time. But once I beat you this time, Matt, it's done, it's over, it's blah, blah, blah. I didn't feel like writing the rest because I got my point across. Either way, we get an impromptu match here. Pretty much all my matches are impromptu, I feel, between Lance and Matt Hardy once again, and they put on a good match last time, so let's see how well they do this time. As we move into our match with a 79B, was this better than their pay-per-view match? Holy shit. I don't know if it's better than their pay-per-view match or not, but a 79B performance between these two. Why do they get such great ratings? They don't have good chemistry or something. Imagine they did. 79B in a decent match here. Matt Hardy going over Lance Storm in 9 minutes, 39 seconds by disqualification. So allow me to explain here what happened. As we see here, we have a distraction involving both Lita and Molly. During the match, Molly, of course, comes down here. She's still got her beef with Lita. She still wants the Women's Championship, so she attacks Lita, beating her up, still blaming her for her boyfriend's injury, which leads to Matt being distracted just momentarily as maybe he has a sharpshooter locked in on Lance Storm. He lets go of it, which leads Lance Storm to grab the title, or maybe just hitting Matt Hardy with a low blow or something, leading to the DQ so he can retain his championship over Matt Hardy. Matt with a 74, Lance with a 67, gaining heat for the Women's Championship feud. Continuing that storyline along as we move on to our next segment, which gets an 84B plus rating, Nerds and Geeks. Hell yes! As I gotta go ahead and put in here that Matt Hardy needs a new gimmick because his gimmick is getting stale. 84B plus here. The match is over, but Storm and Holly they don't care, Nerds and Geeks. They continue their beatdown on their rivals. Molly's beating up Lita on the outside. Storm is beating up Matt in the inside of the ring. He once again goes and grabs a steel chair, forces Matt Hardy through the chair again, once again looking to lock the sharpshooter in on him. But Jeff Hardy, who returned this past Sunday on Survivor Series in the Hardcore title match, comes racing through the crowd, sneaks his way onto the turnbuckle, and returns and just lands like a crossbody, drop kick, whatever you want it to be, right on Storm, making sure he does not lock that sharpshooter on his brother once again, and starts just brawling with Lance Storm, sending him out of the ring and leaving him and Molly to retreat. Of course, Molly sees Jeff here and is like, all right, maybe I should, get out of here as well. So she skips town too with Lance, and I want to make it clear, they're not a relationship. Molly's not lancing on the lancing on. That's funny. Molly's not just, grabbing on the Lance right now just because her boyfriend's gone. She's not ditching Gregory. It's just Lance has problem with Matt Hardy. Molly has problems with Matt and Lita, so why not? So like I already pointed out before, Matt's gimmick is getting stale, so we'll have to edit that a bit. But both feuds moving on, and we move on to yet another angle here, which gets a 79B rating here, and apparently so is Jeff Hardy. So Jeff and Matt's gimmicks are getting stale, which is fine. So backstage, presumably probably back from a commercial break here again, we see Matt and Lita. They're both getting checked on by the doctors, and Jeff Hardy's just sitting there watching, and he's just like, man, Matt, I'm sorry. I wish I could have been there sooner. I honestly should have been there by your side. It's not like this is the first time Lance and Molly have tried something like this. And then Matt says, Jeff, just shut up. I'll be honest with you. I'm glad you weren't out there. And I kind of wish you wouldn't have showed up. I want to do this myself. And Jeff goes, what? That's crazy, Matt. Who knows what would have happened out there if I didn't show up? That could have been the end of the Hardy Boys. And then Matt gets up, of course, still holding his shoulder with the ice or whatever, and he says, yeah, well, maybe that's not a bad thing. And he just walks up, leaving Jeff kind of behind, just kind of stunned and confused, like, what the hell does that mean? So it appears like Matt's getting a little annoyed by Jeff. He wants to do things by his own, and he ain't too happy that his brother got involved, it seems like. As we move on to our next angle here with an 88 B plus rating here, Nerds and Geeks. Back from our commercial break, apparently. The Steiner Brothers music hits, and out comes Scott and Rick Steiner as they make their way down to the ring. The commentary recaps their impressive performance in the War Games, and, of course, their interference on Monday Night Raw in the WWF Tag title match between Austin and Rhino and Test and Albert. Once in the ring, Scott Steiner takes the mic and he says, shut up! Of course, the crowd's booing him. He says, can't you see I got a mic? I'm going to talk, so sit down and shut up. The big bad booty daddy has something to say. Now, a lot of you freaks have been asking me since Monday, Big Papa Pump, why? Why get involved in that tag match? Both teams are not only inferior to you, but below you. Not to mention the tag titles aren't worth a damn thing to you. So here's your answer. While both teams are below us, that doesn't mean me and my brother can let them slide, especially TNA. And while those tag titles aren't worth a dime, they still mean something to Vince and the WWF, which means WCW and the Steiners want them. And if TNA think that they can just jump in front of us, especially after War Games. 1 second. Well, I'd say they got another thing coming, but they already got it on Monday, along with those so-called tag champs, Austin and Rhino. So Austin, Rhino, you better watch yourselves, because the Steiners are coming for you. And that's when Kanyon and Hugh Morris's music plays, and out comes the men who challenged Austin and Rhino this past Sunday. And Kanyon takes the mic and he says, "Now wait a minute here. Well, I think Hugh and I can agree with your statement on TNA. It's your claim to the #1 contenderships where I disagree. What in the hell puts you two next in line? Especially after the performance Hugh and I put on this past Sunday. We were this close to beating those two and walking out the new tag champs. Just like we were this close to beating you two before." And then Scott just replies, "Yeah, well, that's the story of your life, huh, Kanyon?" And then Kanyon responds, "Yeah, kinda. But not anymore." And then Kanyon lands a strike right on Scott's jaw, and Hugh goes right after Rick, leading to an impromptu match once again. Like I said, it's kind of what I'm becoming known for. As Kanyon and Hugh Morris start battling between the Steiner brothers. Scott, of course, doing a masterful job improvising because he refuses not to, he doesn't refuse. I can make him go without a script, but he prefers without a script. And Kanyon, as well, improvising well. So good for Kanyon there. Scott Steiner was good, gaining heat for the feud here. Rick Steiner is also improving in acting as we lead into our tag team title match here, which gets a solid 80 rating here, Nerds and Geeks. And about that had good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. Kanyon and Hugh Morris. Yep, Kanyon and Hugh Morris going over Scott and Rick Steiner in 9 minutes, 54 seconds after Rick and Scott Steiner intentionally get counted out while fighting Chris Kanyon. So they decided, you know what, this ain't worth it. I don't give a damn about this. You guys, it doesn't matter. You guys don't matter to us, so we're just going to get out of here. And they leave, letting Kanyon and Hugh Morris get the victory as they get counted out for a 10 here. Of course, Rick and Scott have excellent chemistry, or should I say great chemistry, not excellent. Not enough selling here. Hugh Morris with a 69, Kanyon with a 78, Rick Steiner with an impressive 81, and Scott Steiner, of course, pulling out that 100. Rick is improving in performance as well. We then move on to our next segment of the night here, Nerds and Geeks. I guess I didn't want to put anything in between these. Stupid, but whatever. We get an 85 B+ rating here, Nerds and Geeks, and about that had fantastic heat and great wrestling. Booker T going over the Giant and Diamond Dallas Page in 15 minutes, 54 seconds. No interference. Ignore that real quick. In fact, ignore all of this. He did get the pinfall by defeating Giant by pinfall. Allow me to explain what happened. So we got a nice, as you can see, fantastic heat and great wrestling match here between the three of these men. Giant unfortunately seemed off his game, and I probably should take Shane McMahon off of Booker T as his manager, to be honest. But I'd imagine everyone's doing great. DDP at one point lands a diamond cutter on the Giant. Looks like he's going to get the win, which leads to Booker T throwing DDP out of the ring, covering Giant to get the win. So that's what happened. That's why, you know, that's how it ended there. I know I put a tainted finish, but there was not supposed to be no Shane McMahon interference. No scissor kick. Diamond cutter takes Giant out. Looks like Page is about to get the win. Booker T, being, you know, the man that he is, the smart man that he is, ends up tossing Giant's ass out of the ring. Not Giant, excuse me. Diamond Dallas Page's ass out of the ring, leading to him getting the victory and setting up the match between him and Kurt Angle. The rematch at Armageddon. WCW Championship. Booker T, of course, representing the WCW, and Kirk Angel being the champion, representing WWF. I'm also pretty sure that we confirmed that Rock and Triple H are going to be facing each other at the pay-per-view, and if not, I just did, so let's go ahead and put that in there. As we got the Rock versus Triple H WWF Championship match. Rock, of course, being the champion. Triple H is the challenger, and we what was that word? And we even confirmed the Intercontinental Championship match, which will be between The Undertaker and Rob Van Dam. Or at least that's what it seems like it's going to be right now. But Chuck Palomo's got some issues. WWF Intercontinental Championship. The Undertaker, of course, representing the WWF and is the champion. Battling Rob Van Dam, who represents ECW. So there's our 3 championship matches that are confirmed right now. So Giant was off his game, that was what I said. Shane did some good work ringside. DDP with the weakest performance in the match with an 80. Giant and Booker T both with an 87 here. As we move on to yet another angle here, probably in between commercial breaks here. But no, not in between commercial breaks. This leads into a commercial. Leading into a commercial, we just get a camera shot of Goldberg's door. You know, one of those door shots where it just shows the name on there. Pretty much saying, oh, coming up next, here comes Goldberg. You guys have been waiting for it. But before we can get to Goldberg, we come back to during the commercial break thing. And I guess this reveals our question mark storyline here. With a 79 solid B rating here, during the commercial break, the Giant attacking DDP backstage, tossing him around, beating him down because Giant is pissed, pretty much blaming Page for costing him his shot for the WCW Championship. And yeah, that confirmed it. Giant and DDP are feuding. So let's go into the Goldberg segment, Nerds and Geeks. An A-star 100 rating here, Nerds and Geeks. It's finally time. The crowd are chanting his name, Goldberg, Goldberg, and the music starts to play. We see security knock on his door backstage. The door starts shaking, Nerds and Geeks, before finally opening, and out comes Goldberg, who begins to be escorted towards the ring by security. He makes his whole entrance, breathing in the firework, whatever thing, blowing the smoke out of his nose, doing the whole entrance to an enormous pop from the crowd. Once in the ring, Goldberg takes the mic and he says, "Did you miss me? 'Cause I'm back. And damn does it feel good to be back on WCW Nitro, and damn does it feel good to be able to say that again. You know, I wasn't so sure about joining this war when Shane approached me. It had nothing to do with me, but Shane told me to think about it. So I thought about it, and I came to realize that WCW gave me everything. But more importantly, it gave me you people. And boy, have I missed you people. So that's why I came back for you. And since I'm back, there are some things that I need to take care of. Mainly getting the WCW World title back to WCW. But before I can take care of that, there's been this little weasel who's been running around. Oh, hold on, not yet. We gotta pull up this, because I did run out of space in the notepad, but I went on and continued because this is such a big angle. Who's been running around and running his mouth since his days in WCW. And now he's running his mouth again. Don't think I didn't hear you, Chris. So, Chris, I know this is something that you've been waiting for. And this is something that I need to correct since WCW, which is why at Armageddon, you're next. But before he can even say next or finish what he's saying, that's when the cameraman who is right next to him, of course, Goldberg's getting closer and closer to the cameraman, or at least the cameraman's getting closer, kind of doing the whole zoom in thing. The cameraman smashes his camera right into Goldberg's face, knocking Goldberg down. Then he gets right on top of him and starts beginning to beat up on the former WCW World Champion before, finally pulling off his hat and apparently his wig, which no one really knew he had a wig on, revealing it to be none other than Chris Jericho, Nerds and Geeks. And Chris Jericho goes out and grabs a steel chair, and he just begins to wail down on Goldberg, hitting Goldberg with the steel chair repeatedly on the back, on the legs especially. And then that's when he finally locks in, not the walls of Jericho, but the Lion Tamer, the best version of the move. locks in the lion tamer on Goldberg. Goldberg's bleeding. Security and paramedics finally rush into the ring. They pull Jericho off of Goldberg, and they're checking on a pissed off Goldberg. Jericho leaves the ring, makes his way, and he stands atop at the entryway, raising his arm into victory, while a bloody Goldberg just stands there looking pissed as he stares off at Chris Jericho, and ends off the night with, I don't think anyone thought it would happen, but a bloodied Goldberg and a victorious Chris Jericho right now. So Goldberg making his debut, not looking good in the process. Debuted his animal gimmick and got a rating of great, so you can't complain there. Bobby Heenan and Tenay were weak, which is unfortunate, but gained heat for the storyline. Ends off the show. Goldberg debuts. Jericho makes an impact. 93, solid A rating here for Nitro, as it increases our popularity in 19 regions. Hey, look, there's Buff Bagwell, the guy who could have had something going for him, but, decided to be a drug addict, so what can you do? Oh, this is something interesting. New Japan joining the National Wrestling Alliance. In something of a coup, the National Wrestling Alliance announced today that they have added New Japan Pro Wrestling to their group. The move, which surprised many insiders who had not heard of any rumblings about their new partnership, was just made official a few hours ago. Good for New Japan. Unless that's some, thing that the person put in the game himself, but I'd like to imagine that maybe it's not. We'll have to check that in a second if we can. Apparently, Marufuji got sidelined, which is unfortunate, but Nitro got fantastic reviews. What do we got going on here? We got drug test, of course, that's fine. Kurt Angle's got an Pisman? He's got an opinion, and he says, Chuck Palumbo is charismatic. I can see him doing well in the future. Huh. When I was starting to have doubts about Chuck Palumbo, Kurt Angle comes in and makes me start thinking maybe Chuck Palumbo has something we can still invest in. Goldberg, first night, already has an opinion. Spike Dudley doesn't connect with the fans. You should probably write him off. Well, I'm glad Goldberg is paying attention to Spike Dudley, of all people. Scott Steiner also says the same thing. These WCW guys just don't like... I think Scott Steiner just doesn't like the Dudleys, but... Oh, apparently Albert wants a pay raise. I'll give you 75. There you go. But we can check alliances, right? Investments, alliances, there we go. I don't want to join. Oh, great. Can we check alliances from here? Yeah, we can. Okay, never mind. Yeah, National Wrestling. So let's see. Okay, yeah, look at that. Yeah, they are. We got Extreme Canadian Championship Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, NWA Wildside, which that's my company, so I don't understand, and Pro Wrestling 01, which isn't that Japanese as well? So two Japanese companies, so that's interesting. We got a couple of morale issues here. What is Bobby Heenan complaining about? Oh, he's like, I was left off invasion. Get over it. I'll bet Lawler too. No, he's just being a jackass. Let's check out storylines before we can end off this. So we got a couple of question mark feuds here that are doing well. We can go ahead and alter some of them, though. Booker T and Kirk and DDP and the Giant. Other than that, though, oh man, my Goldberg voice kind of killed me, to be honest. I think I'm going to go ahead and add Canyon Hugh Morris to this, because I think what we're going to end up doing is do a four-way feud. So Canyon, and let's add Hugh Morris, who is partnered up with Canyon. And let's go ahead and alter this description. I know I probably shouldn't be doing this on the camera, but who cares, right? I wanted to check the storyline, so that's why. Alright, we're going to have to do it this way then. V for Vendetta. V. V. Which is a crazy game, but I'm sure a lot of you probably know that already. Canyon and Morris. There we go. Alright, so that's got a 84B going for it, 89A for Kurt, This feud still hasn't started yet, which we need to start at least on Raw. Jericho and Goldberg at a 93 right now. Paige and Giant with an 84. Edge and Christian with an 83. Billy and Spike with a 58. 82. Not bad for that storyline at all either. Yeah, everything's looking pretty good. I'm satisfied with all this. Other than that, no nerds and geeks, hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, do me a favor, leave me a comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't done already. And as always, my name has been OMG WTF LOL FTW BRB. And I will see you guys for Sunday Night Heat. So until then, I hope you guys have a great day. And look at that right there. Where's the one he just had? It wasn't better than the Survivor Series match, but it was on his top 10 matches. Either way, though, have a great day, you guys. I'll see you for Heat.